I was doing the online Samadhi course in preparation to come. I just discovered your teachings. Thank you for everything. It's all making so much sense. I had to come. And when I was doing the no object, like no single pointed or whatever that meditation is, like the big open meditation that you were offering, it was the first time that it's why I thought maybe it was appropriate because of what you talked about earlier. It was not as if there was a mandala that emerged from as myself. And my question is, it went away because I felt like I just needed to like honor it or do something. It was like, and then gone. And it feels important to know how to like cultivate that. I betrayed my body most of my life until 10 or so years ago when I started on this path, and it feels like right on time for coming here, and I just really want to pay attention to it, so it doesn't go away. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that because I feel this is like a sharing, but is there a dilemma? Is there something?
Yeah.
Or do you want clarity on what happened? I just want to make sure that. Yeah,
it almost felt like the way that you were talking about earlier that, or yesterday, that there's, on one level everything is complete. It's already done. We're already one. Mm-hmm. And my response to the experience didn't feel appropriate because it disappeared because of my whether it was in my head, not that the experience was in my head, but that I went to my head to try to almost like expand it. Like I thought, oh, it's happening like this. I'm seeing and experiencing this beautiful, what I see in pictures, and I want to know if there's advice on what to do when that happens, so that I can keep the momentum going, because it feels like it was something that like I can do right by it, and I feel like in some ways I'm so impressed and honored and in awe with everybody here, and there's like some catch up for me, and
it's clear now.
Yeah. What do I do with it?
Yeah.
How do I not chase it away, I guess, is my question.
How to capture the firebird? You know Russian fairy tales? No? There's a quite a well-known firebird, Жар птица. Firebird, yeah. So obviously the character is this Ivan the Fool, he's the main character of all these stories, folk stories. And so there's a task, of course, always at hand. There's always task. So the task is given to catch firebird, and that this man, that man, because whoever catches the firebird will have the bride, and the bride is the daughter of the king, the Tsar, as the story goes. So I'm not going to tell the full story because it's kind of going to be a little bit, it's not a bedtime story. It's an impossible task to catch the firebird. And the only thing he manages, Ivan, is to grab one of the firebird's large feathers and pull it out. See, and it glows in his hand. He brings it to the palace. But you can't catch, but the bird will give herself to Ivan at some point. Of course, it's pure esoterics. All such fairy tales need to be looked at, and they are, in fact. Every spiritual experience, and the kind that you just now have shared, need to be understood. Is like when you look at it, when you try to do anything about it, it will fizzle away. See? It's like quicksilver. It cannot be held, right? You have to have conditions where quicksilver can gather in one place. Analogy is often given, I often give this analogy, is that the best way to gather quicksilver is to have cup-like attitude. See? Cup-like. A cup-like attitude here. Yeah. Whatever that means to you. Then it gathers there by itself. But as soon as the attempt is made to capture it, catch it, it goes between the fingers. That's the whole property of the quicksilver. So, this is particularly now, we're going to make like a giant leap here and then come back again. We've mentioned Patanjali Sutras today, right? Are you familiar? Not with yeah. Have you read it? No. But you've heard it, like, right? So, Patanjali Sutras made in just few chapters, padas they called. And there is one particular one, the longest one, by the way, called Vibhuti Pada. It's the supernatural powers. It's development of supernatural powers. Really little understood today. And whenever people begin to kind of like roll their eyes or something, no, it's a manual in how to structure consciousness, because that's what it is. It's not for the sake of flying, becoming minute, becoming gigantic. It is an esoteric process of structuring consciousness. That's what the Vibhuti Pada is as a chapter. And the clarity is brought immediately to the last chapter, right after the Vibhuti Pada, the final one, that deals with Kaivalya. And the first opening sutra of that is, and these are to be discarded. See? So the largest chapter deals with how to develop supernormal powers. And then the first line, and these are to be discarded. How confusing, isn't it? You learn to walk on water, for example, right? You spend the heck of a lot of time to do that. And then apparently it's to be discarded. Why didn't I read the last chapter first? Thank you very much, you know. And this is, of course, it's the purpose is different here. And the practice of developing these siddhis in Sanskrit consists of culturing, finessing the point of attention. It utilizes the practice known as togetherness. We spoke about that in the first evening, I think, right, when we spoke about the Trinity, the triadic heart of Shiva. Remember? Right? That term, right? Samhita, remember? Of Rishi Devata Chandas.
Staying with. Are you speaking the staying, always staying with, between the individual, the self?
Well, I gave that also as an analogy of how this is spoken in Vedic tradition, in Vedic, not Tantric, not in Shaivite tradition, in Vedic. And there's a term, Samhita of Rishi Devata Chandas. It's different words used, different Sanskrit words for the same phenomena, for the same thing. So the word samhita is togetherness, and that sam also in the samyama. Samyama, it's the sum total togetherness of the three last limbs of yoga. Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. Concentration, meditation, integration. Concentration, meditation, integration. Together known as samyama, because the Sanskrit word sam means together, often used as a suffix, prefix I meant. So this samyama is indispensable part of the practice in order to develop any psychic ability. But really, if you look at it, it's a reflection of absolutely all processes. In order to achieve anything, in order to be able to perform anything, samyama is required. Togetherness of concentration, meditation, absorption or integration. And together they are forming that, what is known as samyama. So for example, I'll just give you an example. There is a samyama on the moon. So in other words, it's these three together on the moon. Or samyama on the sun. Or samyama on the strength of an elephant. These are direct sutras from the Vibhuti Pada of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. All these culture-specific qualities of awareness within, these are yogic methodologies. They are meant to be practiced, worked with. Why? Because that's what structures consciousness. And that what also helps to destroy on a way to the state of complete and utter integration, so that none of that stuff that deviates us in the first place, and this is why I said the usefulness, profound usefulness we should say, and relevance of Patanjali is that it's, I would say, the most ancient form of psychology. Based and rooted in Samkhya, of which we spoke earlier today, right? It gives this insight into how, in the first place, we end up in a state of this confusion. Why certain aspects run amok our life. Why we become completely and utterly locked in that cycle of samskaras that is referred to. It's given that clarity. You see? There are these terms, that vasanas, psychic impressions. Out of these vasanas, a whole samskaric field is made, compressed. You can't tell one from the other. It's like a cake with so many layers, And that whatever that is cake is propagated with, it goes all the way through, from top to the bottom. You can't peel it even. It's like a cake, like a marble cake, right? Like, just giving an example. You cut it and you will see these layers, all these psychic impressions. And according to Patanjali Sutras, this is what robs consciousness of itself and locks the consciousness into the sphere of individual experience only, at the expense of experiencing freedom. Because kaivalya here is equivalent to freedom. I should have mentioned that. Very important distinction. It's abiding in freedom, that's what it is. Freedom from the binding influence of Prakriti. That's what the goal of the Patanjali philosophy and Patanjali Sutras. So going all the way back, so that you have this as full as an integral picture, right? So what you're asking for, first, I would say as a rule of thumb, we do not try to grasp or chase any spiritual experience with which we are blessed. It's pure blessing. What you described, even in very, very brief terms, is like a blessing. It means that what you've been at, is a samadhi course, right? And it's one of the meditations. So yes, it worked. So for you it worked. Wonderful, congratulations. You see? So it's designed to work. And Tomadatta and I sat together and he was filming that. I said, I want it to work in full capacity of that. Now, some people think that this is just guided meditation. It's not just guided meditation. It's a direct transmission. And if one taps to that direct transmission, there is all that what goes beyond person sitting, speaking, words are being said. So of course this what is being experienced as that self-revealing structure can be experienced as yantra, mandala, as the vibration of the deity. Since it's also an integral part of the immersion, I would keep returning to that. But on the other hand, I want you to also understand that if one is to chase something, there has to be know-how. But you cannot just, by mere desire to replicate that experience, or whilst that experience still happening, how to be more present to it, so as to, so to speak, benefit from it or become one with it or whatever, right? There can be ulterior, there can be side reasons, there can be selfish reasons as well. And nothing wrong with that, right? It's better that we chase something, which is less tangible and that contributes to our happiness and unfoldment, because that's what really it leads to, potentially, always. Because this, the revelation of these structures sometimes only require so as to give a confirmation that indeed pursue that. Okay? It's like the goddess giving you this, that deity, that archetypal power shows itself just a little bit to seduce you into that realm. Because you've been seduced already into this realm. All of us are enamored, seduced into this realm. I will also bring it all the way back to where you've started, because it's a great opportunity. So you see now, for you to make sense out of this. So these self-revealing structures are not really the goal. They are a byproduct of something that was there, set in pursuit of. And then it reveals itself, and this is a seductive experience. Spiritual experiences all have that quality. They're meant to seduce us. Like when you look at a beautiful, if you are a heterosexual man, and you look at a beautiful woman, you're not. Well, okay, when you look at a beautiful man, right? When you look at someone beautiful, I said woman because it's easy for me, but I can appreciate beautiful men just as much and love just as much, you know? Because male form is just even superior than to female. The woman just smells nicer, you know? And but when we even the scriptures say that, you know, a sight of a beautiful woman, see a beautiful face, it has something already there that divine immediately communicates. It revealed there. This is why they burned them mercilessly, because it's frightening. Imagine you know, like, it's a terrible thing, because that's the price was paid. The price, because you're supposed to be a monk, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to be absorbed in contemplation on the divine, on God, on Mary, right, on all this. And then there is institution, and there's, you know, and everything, and then you see a beautiful woman, and all your efforts is wasted there and then. So of course that's why they burned them on stakes. That's what this is. That's as a footnote, terrible part of our shared history. But that what reveals itself is there to seduce us, because not everyone is embedded with enough of that burning desire for truth. There are different ways, as it were, to know oneself. And there are different portals, different doorways. For someone, it's extreme compassion. You have to be really evolved. Like Buddha's way is compassion. There was nothing lacking in his life. If we are to believe to the story, nothing was lacking in his life. So he left it all, not because he wanted to find out, oh, what is lacking in me, you know, like I'm this kind of, you know. No, why there is this suffering? Why is someone like that, in that condition? What's death? What's pain, right? The legend. And swelled with that, it's rare. Most of us are pushed on a path because of suffering. So in other words, it's the silver lining of selfishness. Silver lining of being obsessed, not absolved. What is another term? Absorbed, thank you. Self-absorbed with our own problems. See? When we're a little bit self-absorbed with our problems, we may carry on. But if it's overwhelmingly, then it kind of like burst open the doors into the, you know, and we begin to seek truth. That's our day and age. But there are other reasons as well. Some people are there because of extreme sensitivity to beauty, because they cannot help it. They see this beauty, feel this beauty everywhere. So therefore, they already know God, but they don't know that's what it is. So they become the seekers, you see? So bring it all back, and why I brought the Vibhuti-pada here, so that there is a way how self-revealing structures are accessed consciously. But it's an art, just as we earlier talked about. You know, if you want, someone is swelled with a desire to express and magnanimously, and there is a white wall, but if it's not know-how, it's going to be a petty picture. It's going to be, you know, it's not even going to be Jackson Pollock. You know, it's going to be a mess. So, in the same way here, there is way to access, but it is a very dedicated way. So there are initiatory steps, and you have to, yes, but it's accessible. But going back to where you started, that all of us already, at some level, divine, right? At some level, everything is already perfect, because that's what it is. In terms of quest for the self, this is one of the primal paradoxes. And also this is the test for the integral system, integral understanding, and the integral point of view that is adopted, chosen. So we best choose attentively what kind of philosophical systems are in sync with our understanding, so that there is this clarity as well. And it is for that reason, for me, it's always important to bring this. So there is also clarity, because there is no such thing, in my understanding, in my experience, as going out of here, transcending so as to escape, to go beyond. There's no way to go beyond. One way or another, it's ridden with potential undesired repercussions. In a way, it's a continued return. It's a great embodiment. You see? Saint may carry the saintly karma. Saints are rare, you see? But what the difference between the sage and the saint is that the sage seeks greater and greater incarnation into this greater and greater embodiment. Whereas saint may walk on water, barely here, gone. Saint, transparent, cast no shadow. Sage is different. You see? Sage tames the dragons. See? Sleeps with drunkards. Fucks, smokes, swears. Because all this integral part, shadows are reintegrated into the light of their awareness. It's a big difference. So it goes, therefore, towards greater embodiment, not away from embodiment. Saint also creates the possibility, always, that someone is a sinner. So inadvertently, without even knowing, saint only contributes to the polarity. Without knowing, because the karma is too pure. And sage does that consciously. You see? Even violates dharma in order to sustain the dharma. That's the difference. So, therefore, in Tantra, there is this term, and I like to bring it out always as a reminder. The first step equals to the last step. Because we never go anywhere. The last step is a return, full return. And the first step is also return. You see? So just let this sink in.